Holy crap. Those two words are less explicit versions of the words that I used when I first watched this film. I don't mean that in a bad way. Intro. Take one. How's it going, everyone? Steve here. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that I, as well as many other people, have been waiting for a very long time to see. It did really well in the festival circuit, it got nominated for tons of Oscars, up to and including Best Picture, and it finally got released in theaters and simultaneously on early access rentals, which I took advantage of to watch this film. The film I'm talking about is The Father, directed by Florian Zeller and starring Anthony Hopkins, Olivia Colman, Imogen Poots, and many others. Well, I shouldn't say many others. The film does have a relatively small cast, but it's filled with talented individuals. But let's get down to it. The Father is a film told from the point of view of an old man, played by Anthony Hopkins, who is defiantly insistent upon living alone and being his own independent self. As certain events unfold, he starts to lose his trust in not just the people around him, but also in his surroundings and his own state of mind. And it's no secret talking about this because this is one of the main staples of the film and why it did so well, but Anthony Hopkins' character is suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and it's told from his own point of view. When it comes to movies that get a huge amount of praise all across the board, and especially movies that get tons of Oscar nominations, I always want to see them, but at the same time, I get kind of skeptical about how good they're actually going to be. I don't think I'm alone in saying that a lot of movies that get tons of award nominations and do really well in the festival circuit that deal with a hard-hitting subject matter often end up being very, for lack of better words, Oscar-baity films. And while they have the external trappings of a good film, often they aren't as memorable or impression-making as some of the greatest films ever made. So that's one of the things that kind of intimidated me about seeing The Father. The other thing that intimidated me is the subject matter. It's about a guy who is losing his mind and losing his memory by something that so many of us face or have relatives that face, which is dementia or Alzheimer's or something similar. And admittedly, even for myself, it's a subject matter that a lot of people just never want to get into because it's hard to get yourself in the frame of mind to even have a conversation about it. So, in short, what I have to say about that is that I went into this film with high expectations, but keeping those things in mind. And I had to kind of ramp myself up to see it. With that being said, if I were to summarize how I think about this movie in just a couple of words, or a few words, I would have to say that forget the ideas of Oscar bait and forget the ideas of this being a film that's not worth watching, or that it's going to be forgettable. This is, without a doubt, the best depiction of dementia and Alzheimer's that I've ever seen in a film in my life. And I'm not reaching in saying that. It really is the best I have seen thus far. Usually when I start my reviews, I talk about the acting first, and I absolutely have to commend the incredible cast that they got together for this film. They're all uniformly excellent, but in particular, I've got to call out the obvious thing, which is Anthony Hopkins. He's absolutely masterful in the leading role. Anthony Hopkins is no stranger to great performances. In my opinion, and the opinion of many others, he's one of the greatest actors alive today. And he has a huge film repertoire. And I have to say, this is probably his best performance I've seen since what many consider to be one of the greatest performances of all time, let alone his greatest performance, his role as Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. I would imagine that playing this role must have been very difficult, not just emotionally to get into the frame of mind, but also physically, because there's a lot of physical performance in this film as well, and I have to say, he nails every single bit of it. And he's matched pretty much equally by Olivia Colman in the role as his daughter. She is absolutely amazing as well. The editing in this film is, in my opinion, the best editing of the entire year of 2020. And this is coming from a guy who actually really did think that the best editing of the year up until seeing this film was what a lot of people think is the best editing of the year, which is in The Trial of the Chicago 7. But the difference is, Trial of the Chicago 7 is more of a stylistic editing choice. It's really fast-paced and is more flashy. Whereas with The Father, it's deliberately not fast-paced, but it's used in ways that drop hints as to what's to come. It's the type of editing that drops little subtleties in on you that you weren't expecting to see, and then when you look back at a future point in the film, and then when you call back to something that happened, you're like, oh, that's what that was meant for. And that leads me more into just in general why this film works so well. It's not just a movie about a guy with dementia. It's told from the point of view of a guy with dementia. And that offers a really unique perspective that we don't see in very many movies, and I'll say I don't think I've ever seen in a feature-length film. And oftentimes, the way the movie progresses is quite maddening and quite confusing, and it's meant to be. We have many scenes that seem to take place out of order entirely. There are scenes where you see one person playing one character, but all of a sudden, in the very next scene, that character, by that name, is played by somebody who looks completely different and played by a completely different actor. You have characters in one scene saying that they're going to do something and that they're planning on doing something, and then in the very next scene, when the main character asks them about it, they completely backtrack on that and say that they never said they were going to do that thing. And what's even more maddening is that the main character, who is going through dementia, played by Anthony Hopkins, seems like an intelligent person. That mental facility in his mind that actually lets him know what's actually going on is just crumbling all around him. From moment to moment, we're constantly questioning what's really going on. And that's exactly what the main character with dementia is also doing. And that's why I think this is probably the best depiction of somebody with dementia I've ever seen on film, because I would imagine, obviously I don't have dementia, but I would imagine that's probably a lot like what it would be like to have dementia. And that's one of the reasons why I have to admit it's pretty difficult for me to even talk about this film. So, obviously this was a very long time ago, but when I was a teenager, my late grandfather had dementia. He had Alzheimer's. And it progressed rapidly over the course of a couple of years. And to put it bluntly, it was not a good time in the life of anybody in our family when that was going on. And that's the thing. He eventually forgot who we all were. He eventually forgot how to even really say what he was thinking. And there were times where he got so mad that he would lash out at people who loved him and who previously he knew exactly who they were, but just because he couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And that's the thing with something like dementia or Alzheimer's. Because currently there's no cure, and because there is no way to really stop it or reverse it at this time that we know of, it's one of those things where there's no coming back from it. And it's one of those things that really makes me angry that so many people have to go through that. It's one of those things where I absolutely would never wish having dementia or Alzheimer's on anybody, even if they were my worst enemy. And I have to admit, there's been more than one person in my family who has had Alzheimer's. Not immediate family, but it's something that has happened in my extended family more than once. And I have to admit, of any things that I could possibly be afraid of happening to me in my old age, that's probably one of the biggest fears that I have. I'm somebody who, not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm somebody who, I would like to think anyway, has a pretty solid state of mind. I'm somebody who has a reasonable amount of intelligence and can get from point A to point B and usually is able to figure out what's going on. But I never in my life want to get to the place where I can't figure out what's going on because my brain is basically dying. That's one of the things that I am most scared of in my life. And it's also something that so many other people are scared of, and for good reason. This movie is absolutely the one that does the best job of putting you in the shoes of somebody with Alzheimer's that I have ever seen in my life. Now, because of that, I have to recommend watching this film. And I have to say that this is an important piece of cinema that I think everybody should see. With that being said, I can't say that I enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, because it's not easy to put yourself in that place, especially if you're somebody who has had a family member with Alzheimer's or with dementia, or has known somebody with it. Because I'm putting it lightly when I say it's not a fun time to go through. So overall, I have to say that in terms of movies about people with dementia, this film is an absolute masterpiece. And I think that everybody should see it. But if you want to see it, make sure you're in the right state of mind and ready for something that's going to make you sad. Because, again, I don't know if I can ever watch this movie again. I think I could, but I would absolutely have to get myself into that frame of mind and realize that I'm going to have to expect being sad when I watch it again. With that being said, I have to recommend watching it. And that's it for this review. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps people find my content who aren't familiar with my content and helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new here and you like what you see, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can see more. And if you really want to be notified when I post a new video instead of just finding them every great now and then, go ahead and click the bell icon so you can get notified when I post a new video. And with that, have a good day, and I'll see you later.